This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
It is ruled as undetermined.
The plot thickens in the mystery of what killed the mom of Kanye West, Dr. Donda West. The toxicology results were released this morning, and her exact cause of death is shockingly still unknown. Dr. West's sudden death on November the 10th happened just a day after undergoing breast reduction, liposuction, and a tummy tuck by cosmetic surgeon and television host Dr. Jan Adams, but the report found no sign of surgical or anesthetic mistakes.
To Kanye West, Donda means a lot of things. It's the name of his much-anticipated 10th album, and it's also the name of his secretive creative agency responsible for the majority of his artistic work. But of course, it was the first name of his beloved mother. Since Donda West died, her passing has had a profound effect on Kanye West. He's never seemed to have been able to get over this devastating loss, and ever since her passing, Kanye's life seems to have been meltdown after meltdown for well over a decade now. It's widely believed that Kanye's mother Donda passed away during surgery, but what if I told you that not many people know that Kanye's mother actually survived her surgery, being discharged back into her home only to pass away one day later under very suspicious circumstances. Circumstances which Kanye West has never been able to acknowledge or confront to this very day. Circumstances which may be much darker than the West family want the world to know. But before we get to that, a quick word from our sponsor Skillshare.
If you don't get on Skillshare, how you gonna get smarter? Find yourself a new passion, or take an old one farther. Skillshare's got thousands of courses, no excuse not to get started. Can't complain about boredom when there's new skills to master. Let's learn tonight. Creative people, this is what you yearn for, right? Community of people putting work in right. Feeling that you're underskilled concerning, right? Awesome, and new talents could be yours. Damn, they don't teach them like this anymore. Learning will not be a chore. Does anybody teach real skills anymore? Skillshare, yeah, their platform's amazing. Just sit back and learn all the latest practices for all the creatives. Grab a new skill, it could help you to make it. So sign up, get with it. Learn how to make career pivots with this course called Finding Fulfillment by Emma Gannon. She's a certified winner, because I can't emphasize enough the importance of changing course when your creative dreams aren't taking off. When it becomes a chore, it's time to stop. Keep striving, in no time you'll get to the top. Been there, doing YouTube wasn't the first plan. I had to take L, switch lanes, become a man. And now I've got fans, make grants and give thanks. And Emma Gannon's course might help you do the same. So click that link in my description, people, and sign up for Skillshare Premium. The first 1,000 people who click will get 1 month free Skillshare Premium. What more do you need? Click that link and join Skillshare today. Thanks Skillshare for supporting the video. I'm out.
Dr. Donda C. West gave birth to future prodigy Kanye West in Atlanta, Georgia on June 8, 1977. Donda and Kanye's father, former Black Panther Ray West, ended up divorcing when he was only 3. And so, to support the future Yeezus, Donda worked as a professor of English at Clark Atlanta University. Eventually, Donda and Kanye would end up moving to Chicago, the iconic city that would play a massive role in Kanye's career. Whilst there, Donda was the chair of the English department at the Chicago State University. And eventually, when Kanye was only 10 years old, at one point moving to China, where Donda taught at Nanjing University as part of an exchange program. This kind of global perspective no doubt had a massive effect on a young Kanye, and as Ye grew up with these diverse experiences, Donda would continue to nurture the young Kanye's artistic talents, encouraging him to create throughout his younger years. She nurtured his passions for drawing and music and fashion, eventually paying for Kanye's very first studio session when he was only 13 years old, even going along with him to record his very first tracks in a dingy basement studio. Obviously, we all know eventually Kanye would famously enroll in a Chicago college, the college he would eventually drop out of to pursue music. Naturally, his academic mother Donda wasn't too pleased about this. But as we all know, Kanye, the goddamn musical prodigy that he would go on to be, would eventually go on to prove his decision right, naturally making his mother Donda proud with all of his success. And as Kanye's star shone brighter and brighter, the talent that Donda had nurtured took Kanye's career right to the stratosphere. Dr. Donda West herself would later retire from academia, going on to become become her son's manager. And as Kanye continued down the path of greatness that his mother had nurtured him to be on, he would go from strength to strength, dropping iconic album after iconic album. The College Dropout, Late Registration, the album which actually included the track Hey Mama, a heartfelt tribute to his mother Donda. That project was of course followed up by Graduation, and in a way, at least Kanye's mum got to see him graduate metaphorically as a successful artist and superstar. Who cares about dropping out of college when you're top in the Billboard charts? And Donda West deserves a whole lot of credit for birthing and raising this monstrous megastar. Hell, she even ended up writing a book about her experience raising one of the most iconic musicians of all time, publishing her parental memoir, Raising Kanye.
It's doing very well. It tells all about, raising Kanye, starting with before he was born, all the way up through him being in school and the kinds of little mischievous things that he got into.
In 2007, things were paradise for the West family. Kanye and Donda's careers were both on fire. And at the time, Kanye's relationship with his longtime fiancée Alexis Pfeiffer was also going great. They'd been together since 2002, with Kanye on track to tie the knot with a good, down-to-earth woman who was there from the start and could keep a young, newly famous Kanye grounded and in check. And naturally, Donda was also a big fan of Kanye's missus too.
She's beautiful inside and out. She's so talented. She's a great businesswoman. I am so lucky that she's going to be my daughter-in-law.
However, unfortunately, in 2007, the West family would suffer an unexpected tragedy. This would leave Kanye a broken man, never to be the same again. And it's this incident that might just explain Kanye's decade-plus long spiral of despair and bad decisions. In November 2007, Dr. Donda West went in for elective surgery, specifically an abdominoplasty, aka a tummy tuck, liposuction, and a breast reduction. She was essentially trying to get a better looking body for when she was walking around Beverly Hills with her famous son. And with all the pressure, paparazzi, and body shaming going on, who could blame her? So she seeked out the best plastic surgeon that she could find, eventually finding who she believed to be the right man for the job, Dr. Jan Adams, a celebrity surgeon who had apparently even had his own plastic surgery show on Discovery Health called Plastic Surgery Before and After. So he was no stranger to the limelight or TV experience.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jan Adams, a plastic and reconstructive surgeon here in Beverly Hills, California. Things that go wrong don't go wrong that day. They generally go wrong 2 weeks after, a month after.
So Donda West went under the knife in the care of Dr. Jan Adams, and according to a later report, Donda West walked out of the clinic after 5.5 hours of surgery, being given a prescription for the painkiller Vicodin. Donda West chose to recover from her surgery at home, apparently against medical advice which had encouraged her to receive post-operative care at an inpatient facility. She was allegedly placed under the care of family members, specifically Kanye's cousin Stephen Scoggins, who received his nursing license in 1990 and held an advanced degree in public health. However, the degree to which Scoggins took responsibility for Donda's care has been debated, and it was later reported that there was no documentation of nursing being administered following Donda's arrival home, with it later being suggested that basic things like temperature readings weren't taken. Whilst recovering at home, she apparently experienced a sore throat, pain, and a tight chest as the day went on. And apparently, Scoggins even later said that Donda had told him if she'd have known she'd have been in so much pain following the surgery, she wouldn't have had it done.
She even said, "Child, if I had known it was gonna hurt that much, I would have just wobbled my big ass around Hollywood."
Anywho, Scoggins allegedly stayed overnight with Donda, along with 2 other people identified as caregivers. And apparently the following morning, Stephen Scoggins left the house, later telling officials that he believed Donda had been well and he had intended to return later that evening.
We laughed and talked and ate breakfast. I left. Before leaving, I said, "You know what, Aunt Donda? I think I'm gonna come back tonight." She said, "Oh, I would love that."
Unfortunately, in his absence, a tragedy would occur. Whilst Donda West had been left unattended, at some point later in the early evening, she became unresponsive and was found sometime later. Those 2 women who were still in the house, the caregivers, were apparently Donda's personal assistant and her best friend. They frantically called 911 in a hysterical state, and that harrowing 911 call was eventually released, with it sounding like those on the scene failed to follow the clear instructions of the 911 dispatcher and failing to give Donda West CPR in an appropriate amount of time, sadly dashing any last-minute hopes that Donda West might be saved.
Fire department paramedics, what's the address emergency, please?
She just had surgery. She just had breast.
Give me the address first, ma'am. Ma'am? Tell me what happened. Ma'am, what is the problem? Tell me exactly what happened.
I can hear you.
What happened? Why are you calling?
Because she's having a heart attack, and she's dying, she's not breathing, and she's not moving. I'm trying to do CPR.
Ma'am, how old is this person?
She's 58 years old.
58?
She's had surgery.
Okay, 58. Now, you're doing CPR?
Then we get ready to start.
Ma'am, is she not breathing at all?
her medication. She complained she couldn't breathe.
Ma'am, okay, so she's
Cold
not...
and clammy.
Ma'am, she's not breathing?
She can't breathe.
Okay, is she breathing?
No, she's not.
She's not breathing.
No, she threw up all this black stuff around her mouth, and we trying to do CPR on her.
Okay, so she's not breathing at all?
She's not responding.
Okay, but I want to know if she's breathing. Is she breathing at all?
She's cold and clammy.
Okay, ma'am, is she breathing?
No, I said the mirror.
Okay, did you need... Let me go ahead and give you instruction. Ma'am, do you need instruction on CPR?
Hey, we need a heavy board. Give me a heavy board.
Ma'am, we've already got people on the way to you, okay?
Huh? Dr. West.
Ma'am, are you on speakerphone? If you can put me on regular phone, that'd be better.
We're on regular phone.
Okay, ma'am, is she... Okay, so are you doing CPR at this time?
No, we get ready to start.
Okay, do you need instructions? I can tell you what to do.
Take this off, lift her head.
Okay, we want to lay her flat on the ground, no pillows, nothing underneath of her head.
I can't move her from the bed. She just has to...
Is she in a hospital bed? Ma'am, is she in a hospital bed?
Huh? Please wake up.
Is she in a hospital bed?
Huh? Dr. West. Come on. Come on. Listen, be careful.
Ma'am, is she in a hospital bed?
Come on. Sorry?
Is she in a hospital bed?
Huh?
Is she in a hospital
No,
bed?
she's in a regular bed.
A regular bed?
Yes.
There's no way to get her on the floor?
No, there's no way we can put her on the floor. Let's clear her airway. We're trying to clear her airway.
We've already got... Okay, what you want to do is turn her on her left side. Okay, did you hear that?
I'm clearing out her...
Okay, turn her on her left side.
No, I don't feel a pulse.
So, after asking all of those times whether or not she's breathing, it's eventually established that she's not even in a proper hospital bed. Another indication that she clearly wasn't getting the proper recovery and care she needed in her vulnerable state. And from here, the women in the room continue to do everything except follow the advice of the medical professional on the other end of the phone.
Ma'am, okay, you need to listen to what I'm telling you. The other person is making so you can't hear me. You need to turn her on her left side.
Turn it on her left side. Turn on her left side. Right, left, on this side. This side.
Okay, that way the fluid will run out of her mouth. Just get any fluid, anything that's in her mouth, just go ahead and get it out. Take a towel, use your finger, just get it out of her mouth.
That's what we're doing.
Okay. Is all of it out of her mouth now?
Yes.
Okay, what I want you to do is lay her flat on her back again.
She's on her back.
Okay, is she flat on the bed?
She's flat on the bed.
Okay, no pillows, nothing underneath of her head.
Huh?
No pillows, nothing underneath of her head.
Turn her that way. This way. Yeah, because she rolled like a bed. Dr. West.
Ma'am, no pillows underneath of her head.
Does she have a pulse? Does she have a pulse?
Ma'am, this is a regular house? This is a house?
Yeah, we're in a house.
Okay, does anybody there know CPR? I hear
We
several...
can ready to start CPR now.
Okay.
At this point, one of the women on the scene begins to hyperventilate, and suddenly, all the attention is on her, rather than Donda West's true medical emergency, as the person on the phone inexplicably seems to put all of their focus on making sure that the hysterical person with them is breathing, rather than the person in danger.
What they want, does anybody know how?
Now, don't you dare have to deal. Let me sit down. Breathe. Take breathe. 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 Oh, shit. Get an ambulance here now. I got two people on me.
Ma'am. Hello? Ma'am, is that person breathing? Who is doing the noise? I can't hear what you're saying. Your phone...
I can't hear you.
You know, your phone's cutting out.
Huh?
Your phone's cutting out. Okay, is the person breathing?
No, she's not.
Okay, is anybody doing anything for her?
We're doing CPR.
Okay, are you doing it?
You doing CPR?
Okay, does anybody know how? That's what I've already asked you. What you
Breathe,
need...
open her mouth, choke her head and start breathing her mouth.
Okay, hold on. Ma'am, let me tell you how to do this. You need to listen. You're not listening to what I'm telling you. You're not helping the person at all.
Wait a minute. Talk up to 911 now.
Have the other people be quiet so I can tell you what to do. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, lay her flat on her back.
She's on the floor.
Okay, no pillows, nothing underneath of her head.
There's no pillows underneath her head.
Okay, put one hand under her neck, one hand on her forehead. You want to tilt her head back.
Huh? Okay, one hand underneath here.
One hand under her neck, one hand on her forehead, and tilt her head back.
One hand on her forehead, tilt her neck back. Okay. What? Okay.
Okay, do you see anything in her mouth? Is there any food or vomit, anything?
Any vomit? There's just some black. No. Black stuff. Just black stuff.
Okay, if you have a towel or something, maybe you can just wipe it out of the way?
In our mouth. We did clean her mouth out.
Okay, go ahead and do that. Okay, now with her head tilted back, one hand under her neck, one hand on her forehead.
One hand on the forehead, one hand underneath the neck.
Tilt her head back
Tilt her
again.
head back.
Listen, put your ear by her mouth and nose. Do you
Put your
hear
ear
any
by her
air
mouth
going
and nose.
in and out?
Okay.
Is there any air going in or out?
Yeah, she's blowing some. Make sure her mouth is.
Okay, is there air going in and out?
Is there air going in and out? Her air is not going in and out.
No, okay.
After being on the phone with the 911 dispatcher for more than 5 minutes and not following instructions, the person on the phone finally checks to see if Donda West is breathing, and she is not. Only at this point, after at least 5 minutes of not breathing, do those on the phone suggest that they begin to do CPR. But again, they fail to follow instructions as the frustrated dispatcher desperately tries to get them to listen.
What I want you to do, I'm going to tell you how to do mouth to mouth. I want you to go ahead and, again, tilt her head back.
Tilt her head back.
Pinch her nose closed.
Tilt her close her nose.
You need to tilt her head back and then pinch her nose closed. Okay, cover her mouth with your mouth and blow 2 regular breaths of air.
Two breaths in her mouth.
2 breaths of air. One per second. Make sure her chest rises with each breath. Make sure her chest rises with each breath.
No, her chest is not rising. Wait.
Okay. Did they do a breath already?
Take a deep breath and blow 2 short breaths in her mouth.
About one each second.
1 each second.
You want to make sure her chest rises with each breath.
Okay. No.
Is her chest going up or down?
No, nothing.
Okay, then try tilting her head back a little bit more. Pinch her nose closed.
Pinch your nose closed.
Okay, and tilt her head back a little bit more, and two more breaths of air.
Is her mouth clear? Yes.
Okay, a nice tight seal on her mouth, and 2 more breaths of air, ma'am.
2 more breaths. I hear paramedics coming over.
So they're on their way. We've already sent them.
I hear her little gurgles.
Okay, did air go in when she breathed into her?
Push twice gently on her.
Ma'am, did her chest rise with each breath?
No. Gently.
Okay, well, they need to, either they're not blowing hard enough, because if there's any fluid left, you got to blow through it.
Okay.
Okay?
There's no fluid. Clear.
There could be something in her, down in her throat.
Her mouth is clear. We're clearing her mouth now.
Okay. If there's anything in her mouth, we just need to blow through it if you can't get it out. Okay?
We're bringing the chin up. Tilt her head back some more.
Tilt her head back just a little bit more. If that doesn't work, then we're going to start doing compression.
Okay.
Cover her mouth with yours. Pinch her nose closed. Pinch her nose closed. Cover her mouth with yours. 2 breaths of air, 1 per second.
Okay.
Okay, did the air go in? Did you see her chest rise with each breath? Are they inside?
The call ends abruptly as the emergency services arrive to the scene around 7:35 p.m, with TMZ reporting that both fire and ambulance services responded to the scene. Donda West was taken into the ER unresponsive and pronounced dead less than an hour later at 8:30 p.m. on the 12th of November 2007. The surgeon who performed the surgery on Donda West, Dr. Jan Adams, came out after her passing to say that he thought she was fine when he discharged her, hinting that he believed initially that the painkillers may have played a role in her passing.
Her caregivers gave her, 20 Vicodin tabs in less than 20 hours.
That, Dr. Adams believes, contributed to Donda choking.
In January 2008, the LA County coroner ruled Donda West's cause of death as coronary artery disease combined with multiple post-operative factors following her surgery. This report said specifically that multiple factors after the plastic surgery may have contributed to her death. This report was essentially inconclusive, with the autopsy pretty much failing to determine the exact, specific, and single cause of death. But if you look at the way it was worded, it did essentially rule out the surgery itself, saying that there was no evidence of surgical or anesthetic misadventure. As the news of Kanye's mother's passing broke around the world, the West family requested respect and privacy during this dark hour. With that in mind, it's almost strange that the West family would go on to release a statement stating that Donda West had passed away as a result of complications from a cosmetic surgery procedure. This statement is likely why it's widely believed that Donda West passed away in surgery. With that in mind, it would be hard for Dr. Jan Adams to respect this statement, because it in some ways kind of indirectly pointed the finger at him and the cosmetic surgery as the direct cause of Donda West's passing. Jan Adams said that following the bad publicity around the death of Donda West, with people believing that she had died in surgery or as a direct result of the surgery, his practice collapsed and people stopped booking procedures with him.
Our surgery center was right here.
His once thriving practice imploded because patients stopped coming.
People who were signed up for surgery wanted their money back. People who had planned surgery, canceled.
And as time went on, Donda's surgeon, Dr. Jan Adams, would attempt to set the record straight in a series of interviews, saying numerous times that the autopsy speaks for itself, inferring that the way the coroner's report was worded represented vindication for him and damnation for the West family and their aftercare.
So is this vindication for Dr. Jan Adams? The doctor who performed Donda's cosmetic surgery without board certification released this statement to Sean Robinson saying, quote, Mrs. Donda West autopsy confirms exactly what we believed. Again, we are on the side of the family and we will continue to work with the family to get them through this difficult situation, end quote.
Dr. Adams would go on to point the finger firmly at Stephen Scoggins, Kanye's cousin, who was supposedly tasked with caring for Donda West following her discharge.
Stephen Scoggins and Kanye West, in their quietest, deepest hours of contemplation, have to know they did the wrong thing.
Adams says he wanted Donda to recover from her surgery at a medical facility, but he claims she insisted that her nephew, a nurse with a PhD in public health, care for her at her home.
Her nurse wasn't there. Her nurse was gone to a baby shower rather than taking care of his aunt.
Clearly, Dr. Adams' public statements were rubbing the West family up the wrong way. And as a result, on the 20th of November, Dr. Adams actually walked off set during a planned interview with Larry King after apparently being threatened with legal action only moments before going on air.
I don't have a side in this. They are my side. And so I'm going to respect their wishes. And I'm going to apologize to you because I think I'm taking up your airtime. But I will not be on the show and I will not discuss any of that. I'm going to honor their wishes, okay?
Meaning you won't answer any questions about
None.
anything?
None.
All right, then how will you ever answer questions? I mean, where does this go?
Well, I will
I'm
talk
not
with
mentioning
them.
Mrs. West.
I will talk with them. When they're comfortable, then I'll be comfortable. If they're never comfortable, then I'll never be comfortable. They are what's important to me. I said that from the start, and that's what I'll continue to honor.
Then just a few things having nothing to do with them. Don't you want to speak out?
No.
You don't want to?
No. I do not.
All right, but you came here to speak out.
That's correct. But I'm going to honor their wishes.
Dr. Adams would appear on Larry King once again later on, this time for a full interview while sat alongside his lawyer.
Did the autopsy clear you of any involvement, do you think, in her death?
I think the autopsy speaks for itself. Period. What I try to do is break it down into segments. Okay, what went on during surgery? What went on after surgery? What went on after she left the surgery center? And where do you go from there? So as far as I'm concerned, the autopsy, at least the autopsy report, suggests nothing went on during surgery, nothing went on during recovery. Okay, she's now gone home. We need to look at that period, and I think that's what's open.
So, Dr. Adams made it very clear that he believed whatever went on in the West household was the cause of Donda's death. And seemingly, he wasn't the only one. Following the passing of Donda under these strange circumstances, apparently the coroner filed a complaint with the state nursing board, pointing out that Stephen Scoggins had left Donda West in the care of laypersons who were not present when she went into cardiac arrest.
The coroner filed a complaint with the state nursing board saying Scoggins left Ms. West in the care of laypersons, and she was left alone and unmonitored when she went into cardiac arrest. Dr. Adams says Donda West was left lying flat on her back, causing her to choke to death.
This lady shouldn't be dead. All you had to do is sit her up. And every nurse on the planet knows that.
And following the autopsy results, it was reported that Scoggins was even investigated by the California Board of Registered Nursing, with Scoggins going on to reply and defend himself in the media with what he described as email evidence that suggested that he was never supposed to be Donda West's primary carer.
And Scoggins says he's got the smoking gun evidence to prove it. Emails he exchanged with Donda the night before her surgery.
Don't hesitate to let me know if you need anything.
Emails that he's sharing publicly for the first time ever, right here on Crime Watch Daily.
This is the part that I feel as if she's speaking from the grave. If you could come by on Friday evening or even call, that would be great. That clearly never suggested that I was going to be providing her post-operative care.
Now, nothing ever came of the investigation into Scoggins, and so unfortunately for Dr. Jan Adams, despite his own theories, opinions and finger-pointing, the blame simply couldn't conclusively be placed on Stephen Scoggins or the other two caregivers that were present when Donda West passed. But for the sake of fairness, let's take a look at this from the perspective of the West family. Is Dr. Jan Adams really to be trusted? Well, since the tragic passing of Donda West, the sentiment on Dr. Jan Adams has been less than positive. He's already said that following the bad publicity surrounding Donda West's passing, his practice collapsed and people stopped booking. But were there other reasons for people to be scared to go under the knife with Dr. Jan Adams? Well, there has been plenty of dirt put on his name independent of the Donda West case. For example, in the run-up to this incident, it's been reported that Dr. Adams has been subject to numerous alcohol-related arrests, including a 1994 drunk driving arrest, a refusal to take an alcohol test, and another drunk driving arrest. But in all fairness to Dr. Adams, he did defend himself against these specific allegations in his Larry King interview.
I got a DUI. Okay, and that's what stemmed from that. Very stupid, my fault, out with a couple of friends of mine and I'm driving them home. Not a good decision, and I take responsibility for that. It doesn't have anything to do with medicine. It has to do with holding doctors to a higher standard, and I think that's more than reasonable. What the outcome in fact was is that they put the license on probation for 3 years. So that's already been solved. Well, it means that you can continue to practice as long as you don't have a problem over the next 3 years, then it goes away. What the conclusion was essentially this. This guy doesn't have an alcohol problem, but he needs to stop going out with his friends and driving them around.
Did you have more than one DUI?
Yes. One was, in fact, I blew into a machine 5 times and refused a blood test. But it didn't register after 5 times blowing in the machine. I said to the guy, I told you I wasn't drinking, I blew in your machine.
But setting aside his ability to hold the wheel, perhaps there's other reasons he might not be trusted to hold the scalpel. It's been widely circulated that Dr. Jan Adams had also been the subject of 2 malpractice lawsuits, receiving judgments to the sum of $500,000. Something which he had explained away on numerous occasions as simply broke patients looking for a come-up after buying surgery that they couldn't afford.
I think it's sort of a symbol of the foulness that has sort of contaminated our entire society. People want to get something for nothing, and that's what we're looking at.
It's also been suggested by some that Dr. Adams should have turned Donda West away for the surgery that she was seeking, with an LA Times article suggesting that another surgeon had actually declined to operate on Donda West on the grounds that she was apparently a heart attack risk. Jan Adams defended himself once again against these claims in his Larry King interview alongside his lawyer.
How much of a medical checkup, and a lot was written about this, do you do of your patients before they go under the knife?
Well, our patients go under a whole lot of tests, but it depends on the history and physical you take. Everybody doesn't get the same test because everybody's different. And so what I do is an initial history and physical where I go through everything that's gone on with the patient. Once they tell me that, then we order the appropriate test. If someone has had 3 or 4 different doctors and they've all had these tests, then we have their doctors send us the tests.
All right. But you wouldn't do a EKG on every patient?
Well, no.
Or would you?
No, I would not necessarily do an EKG on every patient, no.
But regardless, this theory must hold some significance, because as a result of this whole situation, the then California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger would go on to sign what was referred to as the Donda West Law, a new rule that apparently made it mandatory for patients to receive medical clearance through a physical examination before undergoing any elective cosmetic surgery, with the suggestion that Donda West may have thought she was well enough to go under the knife, when she was in fact not. Ultimately, it's not entirely clear who is specifically to blame. And in many ways, that ambiguity is a big reason as to why this is such a heartbreaking tragedy. Because the person that truly suffered the biggest loss here was Donda's son, who was left with no firm answers about what had happened to his mother, just a whole bunch of suspicion and heartache. Kanye has said in numerous interviews that he blames himself and his move to Los Angeles for his mother's death, telling one interviewer, "When I moved to LA, she moved to LA, and she wound up in a place that would eat her alive. Even if I stayed in New York, it wouldn't have been like that. If I'd have lived in New York, she'd still be here." And another saying, "I moved to California, so did my mum. I feel my mum moved to California and did stuff she wouldn't have done if she was still in Chicago. And another, when Kanye was asked what he felt he sacrificed the most to achieve his level of success, he replied, his mum. If I'd have never moved to LA, she'd still be alive. I don't want to go far into it because it'll bring me to tears. Only 12 days after the death of his beloved mother, Kanye played his first concert at the O2 Arena in London. At this show, Kanye dedicated a performance of his tribute song Hey Mama to his mother Donda West. This is something he would keep doing as touring continued year after year. In fact, to this day, there are numerous instances you can go and watch of Kanye attempting to perform this song, breaking down, overcome with grief, and being unable to finish the performance. And even outside of the music, Kanye was going on grief-stricken on-stage rants only weeks after his mother's passing.
50 people, 100 people I ain't never talked to in like the past 3 years call me out the blue, call me talking about, I just want to tell you that I'm giving you your support and stuff, and I appreciate the support and all that, but don't suggest what I'm supposed to do, you know. What you need to do, you just need to stop touring, you just need to go home and clear your head. Go home to what, motherfucker? Because if they see you out, and you go outside, and then the media catches it, man, fuck the media. And there's nothing that she loved more than to come to the shows and scream louder than any fan, because she was my first fan that was screaming before anybody else. If she was here, she would tell me to get on that stage and kill it, dog. She would tell me to go on this glow in the dark tour and take over the world and be #1 like how I taught you to be, baby.
And Kanye did go on that glow-in-the-dark tour and take over, no matter how hard it was on him. But before he set off on that tour, he broke off his engagement with his longtime fiancée Alexis Pfeiffer, with it being said that his relationship was simply at odds with his new life on the road. The loss of his mother and his relationship represented a devastating double heartbreak for Kanye during this time. Both of the women who had been there for him his entire come-up were now gone. I can't imagine how devastating that must have been for him, but people wouldn't have to imagine, because Kanye was able to channel his dark, sad emotions during this time into beautiful artistic works. At this point, Kanye was so grief-stricken, he said he couldn't even properly communicate his emotions through rapping. So he decided to take up singing, apparently encouraged by Michael Jackson himself, who had told Kanye directly that he should start singing after the two met at Lyle Cohen's house. But Kanye would be the first to admit that he didn't have an angelic singing voice. And so it was at this point that he actually discovered auto-tune after being inspired collaborating with Lil Wayne on the Lollipop remix and Young Jeezy on the track Put On. In fact, both of those rappers would even end up on the resulting project, with Kanye using those experiences and his emotions to develop his moving fourth album, 808s and Heartbreak, with Ye describing the album as a little bit of auto-tune and a whole lot of fucked up life. The project had an amazingly meaningful cover showing a deflated heart balloon, designed by Virgil Abloh, of course, and funnily enough, I was actually a teenager going through my very first breakup when this album released, and it had a profound effect on me at the time. It truly felt like Kanye had summed up in just 10 tracks exactly what Heartbreak felt like. And for me, listening to that album over and over again did more to help me heal than talking to anyone in my real life possibly could have. And this was a massively successful album, despite the cold reception that it got from some of the more die-hard hip-hop fans at the time. And the man who inspired Kanye to sing, Michael Jackson, even went on to be a huge fan of the album himself, apparently playing it for his daughter Paris frequently too. Now, the majority of the songs on 808s and Heartbreak were about Kanye's breakup with Alexis and the feelings of intense heartbreak that he was going through during this time. But Kanye did touch on the true dark cloud that was over him during this time, caused by the devastating loss of his mother on just 2 tracks near the end. There was Coldest Winter, a song about how Kanye felt after finding out that he had lost his mother, and Pinocchio's Story, an onstage freestyle where Kanye breaks down and essentially blames himself for his mother's death, a song that was apparently only included on the album at the direct request of Beyoncé herself. Kanye's therapy was his music, and the music was a huge success. After 808s and Heartbreak, Kanye was on top musically and career-wise, but perhaps people were dead right when they had said that he really should have taken a break during this hectic period, as it was only a year after this in 2009 on that fateful night where Kanye confronted Taylor Swift on stage at the VMAs, swiftly becoming public enemy #1. And in his apology for that incident on Jay Leno, Kanye would justify his actions, saying that he never truly got an opportunity to grieve for his mother.
I was fortunate enough to meet your mom and talk with your mom a number of years ago. What do you think she would have said about this? Would she be disappointed in this? Would she give you a lecture?
Yeah, you know, obviously, you know, I deal with hurt, and, you know, so many, you know, celebrities, they never take the time off, and I've never taken the time off to really you know, I just music after music and tour after tour and tour, and I'm just ashamed that my hurt caused, you know, someone else's hurt. My dream of what award shows were supposed to be caused, you know, and I don't try to justify it because I was just in the wrong. That's period. But I need to, after this, take some time off and just analyze how I'm gonna, you know, make it through the rest of this life, how I'm gonna improve.
In the decade plus that's followed Kanye's iconic outburst, his life has frankly been shrouded by a dark cloud directly caused by the loss of his mother. Now, there's no need for me to get into every single outburst, breakdown, or bad decision Kanye has made over the course of this period, but he's done as much to self-destruct over the loss of his mother as he's done to use that emotion to make amazing art. Whether it's the many albums or songs talking about his emotions and the loss of his mother, to naming his creative agency after her, an agency aiming to, in his words, pick up where Steve Jobs left off. Or there's even the strange 2016 announcement of a mobile video game that Kanye had supposedly developed, where players would take on the role of Donda West herself in a video game where the goal is to guide her into heaven. However, one of the most bizarre and telling incidents relating to Kanye's grief over his mother occurred on April the 28th, 2018, when Kanye tweeted a phone conversation saying that he was planning to make the front cover of an upcoming album of his a picture of Donda West surgeon Dr. Jan Adams' face, sharing a mugshot of Jan Adams along with a text saying, "This is my album cover. This is plastic surgeon Jan Adams, the person who performed my mum's final surgery. I want to forgive and stop hating." To this shocking and frankly wholly inappropriate public announcement, Donda West surgeon Jan Adams replied to Kanye in a long open letter saying the following: "Dear Kanye, thank you for thinking of me for the cover of your next album. That's kind of you. I can truly say I've never been on an album cover before. I did do a product cover for Chanel Allure Cologne back in 2005, but never an album cover. Unfortunately, I have to decline at this time, and I ask that you cease and desist using my photo or any image of me to promote your album or any of your work. I don't want to seem ungrateful. I just think that if in fact this conversation to love is genuine on your part, then it's inappropriate to drag the negativity of the past with it. Nonetheless, I'm impressed that you want to forgive and stop hating. That's impressive. More of us need to adopt that philosophy. Understand though, that if you make the decision to love, you will no longer have that luxury of stupidity to which many of us cling. The luxury that, as long as I do not know, I am free to believe what I want. With true love comes intellectual honesty. For example, in her article about your decision to love, Karen Mitsuguchi notes that the LA coroner determined that Donda died of heart disease while suffering from, quote, multiple post-operative factors after plastic surgery. However, the autopsy failed to determine the exact role the post-operative factors played in her death. I am going to show you how that is not true, and towards the end of this letter, you will see what the coroner's office did, not said, did, and that will demonstrate what they thought without a doubt. Frankly, those questions have remained because the coroner feared litigation and would not say out loud what he and his office believed to be true. The press, by allowing Harvey Levin to be the lead dog in the story, told it wrong. Harvey told Larry King the surgery took 8 hours, and that's why he knew there was a problem. But it didn't take 8 hours, it took 5 hours. There was no problem. From a surgical standpoint, the operation was a success. Harvey was either wrong or frankly lying, and rather than correct his mistake, began to attack me and ignore the facts of the case, and the most important person in this story, Donda West. So I refer you to County of Los Angeles Department of Coroner Investigator's Narrative, case number 2007-08227. Interview with Glenda Lee. She tells us exactly what happened to your mum. Glenda said, at 16:30 hours, Donda ate some chicken soup, crackers, water and pineapple juice before her medications were given at 1700 hours. Miss West went to bed, and at that time she said her chest was tight and her throat sore. The decedent got out of bed but was not described as being anxious or confused. When she went back to bed, pillows were beneath her legs and a single pillow was beneath her head. Keep in mind, Scoggins was supposed to be caring for your mum, and he was told to elevate the head of her bed 30 degrees. Any nurse would know this, but not your mum's best friend or her personal assistant, who were the only people with her. The decedent was able to tolerate lying flat. The investigator asked this specifically. Remember to ask me why. Miss Lee went to the kitchen for a short while, and when she returned, the decedent had black stuff on her face and was cold and clammy. Black stuff on her face is also important. Again, sadly, this represents something that could have been avoided simply by elevating the head of her bed 30 degrees. Any nurse would have known this, but her nurse, Donda's nurse, wasn't there. Her nurse had gone to a baby shower. Don't take my word for it. Have you ever heard the adage, it's not what you say, it's what you do that matters? Watch at the end what the coroner's investigator does. Another reporter, Nicole Bettet, for the New York Daily News states, the artist's mother Donda died in 2007 after a botched plastic surgery job. Keep in mind back then, your attorneys had the chart reviewed by a number of experts, and not one of those experts arrived at that conclusion. Not one. I will be contacting her workplace. Donda West's surgery was not a botched job. There is absolutely no report anywhere to support that statement by the reporter. None. That's why your lawyers backed off. Furthermore, she goes on to write, Adams, the California-based surgeon who performed the procedure, claimed in an interview with the Daily News in 2015 that it was the rapper's cousin's fault that Donda had died. Adams blamed West's cousin Stephen Scoggins for making mistakes immediately following Donda's liposuction, tummy tuck, and breast reduction surgery. That is also neither accurate nor true. I wasn't the one who blamed Stephen Scoggins, and here's the payoff. The coroner did. Now I refer you to an official complaint filed by Denise Bertone, deputy coroner. Miss Bertone wrote, I was informed by Dr. Adams that he discussed the post-operative care of the decedent with Dr. Scoggins, who stated that he would be assuming care of his aunt. Dr. Scoggins stated that he would be making arrangements for Miss West to be cared for at her home, when in fact Dr. Scoggins did not make any special arrangements concerning her care. Dr. Scoggins was to be the primary care provider for his aunt and was to stay at her home. According to the information provided by Dr. Scoggins, the morning after the surgery, he left the home because the decedent appeared to be better. Miss West was left in the care of laypersons. Dr. Scoggins indicated that he had left that morning with the intention to return later and care for his aunt. He did not return home, nor did he call to check on the decedent. Miss West was experiencing symptoms that would have been concerning to a prudent nurse. She was left alone during this time, and it's not unknown whether medical attention could have saved her life. However, due to neglect, this opportunity was never provided. I have been asked by my supervisors to express the concern that this office has regarding the care that Miss West received following her surgery, and to provide you with the autopsy report and documentation that has been received from Dr. Adams. Enclosed you will find that paperwork. So, if your journey is true, to forgive and stop hating, start by dealing with the facts. Perhaps you should put your cousin's picture on your next album. Don't put my picture on there and claim you're about love. Love deals with the truth. Over the past 10 years, I've tolerated all the errors, misinformation, and frank lies told by reporters, journalists, and people on the street out of respect for the doctor-patient privilege and your mother. Nonetheless, do not mistake kindness for weakness. If you want to heal, first call out the people in your own camp who knew better and persisted with the charade in order to hide their own guilt. I know your attorney, Brad Rose, knew the truth because I told him myself in a number of exchanges that occurred during the investigative process. I know he hired another lawyer named McPherson to represent Stephen Scoggins. But ask yourself, why would Stephen need an attorney anyway, unless your attorney already knew he had done something wrong? You are a father and a family man. Take the time to cherish those things. You won't regret it. Everyone can get past this, but you have to be intellectually honest. It's hard to consistently and unconditionally love. I welcome you to the journey. Warm regards, J.R. Adams, MD. And surprisingly, Kanye replied to this letter in a tweet saying, "Open letter from Jan Adams. This is amazing. Thank you so much for this connection, brother. I can't wait to sit with you and start healing." I almost wouldn't be surprised if Kanye hadn't actually read the letter or even fully taken it in and processed it. And it wouldn't surprise me if Kanye, even to this day, was still so grief-stricken about that terrifying situation that went down on the day his mother died, that he still simply just could not confront the facts about what went on that day. It's clear that Kanye West was never the same after the loss of his mother. It's clearly an endless well of grief that he is still suffering from to this day. So, as he gears up to release his new album Donda, I just pray for Kanye. I hope that one day he'll be able to find peace. I hope that he's truly fulfilled by the amazing art that he's been able to channel his emotions into creating. And I think I just speak for everybody that's a fan of Kanye when I say thank you to Dr. Donda West for the incredible gift that she gave the world in raising and nurturing the greatest musical genius of a generation. For that, she'll never be forgotten. And I think that we can all agree that at least through her son's work, the name of Dr. Donda West will truly live on forever. Thank you for watching.